Happy Friday, everyone. It is the Friday, as part of Around 11, because it did start last night. I'm Warnie, coach of the Warn Dogs, and here is Drew Jones.
Coach of the Mountain Goats, host of Goat Fantasy Podcast. Warnie, always a pleasure.
It is good. It's a nice Friday. Beautiful Friday here at UTAS Stadium. I don't know what people were complaining about last night. We had a cracking game, it was, and conditions were fine for us Tasmanians anyway.
Mm-hmm. Weird fantasy game, wasn't it? Like the scoring was a bit strange, which you don't want on a Thursday night. You want all your players. You want to get your weekend off to a good start, and when you see crappy scores from Rochelle and Cook, that hurts. But geez, surely I wasn't the only one thinking I want Jordan Dawson in my team off the bye. That's like my number one focus.
He's almost one of the
immense last night.
One of the only ones, I guess, off that first bye that you really want. So he's probably the number one target, and he was showing it. Obviously, last night, off to an absolute flyer as well. Still finished with a great score, so 131 with his 28 disposals, but the 9 tackles there, probably the conditions sort of helped him for that, and his role, playing through the guts as he does, like he was just a machine. And I think that he has to be probably very close to that number one target off the bye after next week, so after round 12. But what else we see? Wayne, he was doing his thing. We love Wayne Miller doing his thing. He did give away a couple of free kicks, though, which was a bit frustrating when you're sort of watching and riding every bump with not a grin, because you've got everything else going on too with Rochelle, as you mentioned there before. So he knocked out a 59 and didn't go into the guts, even off the back of the Rankin injury, which you thought that might have been the thing. So Rankin, bit of a calf. No massive news on that there at the moment, but probably they've got the bye obviously next week, so it is a bit of a watch on that, I would say.
To be honest, after he gets through the Geelong matchup and his bye, I think he would make sense potentially as an inclusion into our teams, because he's still really nicely priced and he's shown
and has a
last
role.
Few weeks. Yeah, like he has preference on those CBAs. So that's one to sort of stash in the background for a bit later on. But Rochelle disappointing.
Cookie 49 as well. That's
all right all along about Rochelle.
Yeah.
But the role and his form sort of just forced our hand, didn't it, early in the season? But ultimately, he's sort of regressed to what he's always been, which is, in this Adelaide team that's competing for, top 6, top 4, he's a great forward, but he's not a fantasy guy.
Could have taken a few more chest marks, though, that were bouncing off him.
Yeah, it's maybe, it's a bit conditions and I don't know. There's a few moving parts here, but ultimately he's let us down. If your team was in a luxurious position, I guess he was a guy that you would have been looking at moving over the last couple of weeks. A mate of mine who's gone real well. He's in the top. I think he was 32 at one stage.
Yeah,
he traded out Rochelle 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
That's how well he's gone.
Beach balls.
So yeah, exactly. As I said Beach Ball Benny. That's a new nickname, mate, because you're absolutely flying. But good coaches probably would have already sacked him off. But when you've got long lists of injuries and underperforming primos, I guess he just sort of slides through the cracks, doesn't he?
Yep. Could be one of those moves next week, and Roy was kicking himself all last night. He was going to do it. He was going Rochelle down to Sully Roby.
He should have done it. Oh. That made so much sense on paper. I would have said to anyone this week, if you've got Grundy and you've got your top end sorted out for that matchup against Geelong, that move makes so much sense. Roby's scoring better.
Yep.
And he'll make you some
coin.
Couple
$100K.
Yeah,
yep.
Not too bad.
Anyway, you know what the worst part about that is? Actually hanging out with him after lockout, and he hasn't done it, and he sulks and whinges and moans.
That is hanging out with him full stop.
Exactly. Right, the other one there for the Crows was Lockie McAndrew, 75. So I guess another tick, if you're still going down the road of going, he's a rookie, he's doing that. However, he's definitely on the chopping block for plenty, and I do believe the Goats have said goodbye this week.
Yeah, I think that was just the move that made the most sense after analysing everything. I stashed cash away last week to go a big upgrade this week. Mm-hmm. It was always going to be turn a rookie into a premium. The fact that I've gone McAndrew to Grundy means I've still got cash for next week as well. But I could have done Murdoch to Bailey Smith. So they were the areas that I was operating in.
Collecting your set of the big four.
Yeah, that's right. You got to catch them all. But I just thought that matchup with Grundy against Mitch Edwards, just that points differential is like we're looking at like a potential 70-point split here.
Captaincy.
So, yeah, made sense. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then the other one there, just worth mentioning for the Crows, was Toby Murray. He had 3. So, poor fella, after having a great game last week, or he has been pretty solid coming in. So, with his bye, he's made his coin, he's done his thing for you because he hasn't been an awful pick there. We don't have many Hawks in our side, so we're not really probably focusing on them too much. However, another Connor McDonald, 68 there. It's just been probably a little bit disappointing those last few weeks after almost he looked like, not a must-have, but he was a great pick in the end. You know, a month or so ago, we're going, yep, this was the right one.
I think symptomatic of Hawthorn's form, really. If you look at Dylan Moore, Jack Ginnivan, Nick Watson, who's now out with, I think he had a concussion test or something, but their scoring has dipped as Hawthorn's form has slightly dipped. And again, last night wasn't a great fantasy game, but the Hawks haven't been going at full rat power for a couple of weeks. I think this was always going to be the down game for their defenders, wasn't it? When you looked at the run they've got going forward, like Impey's been awesome, Amon's been great, even Sicily has been scoring relatively well, and Josh Battle, but they didn't all get a lick of the ice cream this week. But I think going forward, Impey and Amon and those guys, and probably Sicily, are going to be pretty good.
Yeah, that Amon pick was great last week, and then probably that little bit of a letdown, I suppose, this week. But moving forward, that run, if you go and have a look at that fixture, it does look really, really nice with what they've got coming up. So will work out all right for those coaches that did jump on there, I reckon. You just take these blips along the way, and hopefully it means...
If you look at the example with me, like I went Amon last week instead of Whitfield.
Yep.
So you save almost 300K and you get 100 and you got to cop the 60 this week.
Yep. And well, that's what my mate Whitfield scored last week because I took Whitfield over Amon. There you go. Geez, you're seeing him well, Drewy.
No, I'm not. Don't say that.
All right, let's get into round 11. This is our second of our Sir Douglas Nichols round. So tonight, the showpiece of that, 7:45, is Richmond and Essendon. And, well, we say showpiece. Sadly, for the game and maybe for some fantasy stuff, it may not be exactly what we're after. However, we've got a few Tigers rookies floating around and they need them. However, they were able to drop Liam Fawcett, so they can't be that cooked if they are omitting players. But Campbell Gray is out injured. Jasper Alga is in with Mike Kelty Lafau. And then for the Bombers, they have 4 changes with Cox, Setterfield, Newen omitted, and Peter Wright out with that knee. So Ben Mackay comes back in, Jade Gresham, Guelphy, and also Tom Edwards are in there. All right. What are we looking at in this one from a fantasy perspective?
Well, I think Roy had Zach Merritt in his top trade targets. His immediate run looks good, doesn't it? And certainly he's got form putting big scores on Richmond. I don't know if you remember that 149 he got. Remember he played in the back line in the second half and he just was absolutely racking up. The only thing with Merritt is just the continued speculation around his future. Just wondering how that affects him, if at all. But certainly it's in Essendon's best interest for Zach Merritt to win the best and fairest, get value, 20 Brownlow votes. Value. Yeah, like they want the best value for him possible. So I think it's still a safe move. But there has been more chatter the last couple of weeks. I'm interested to see if that affects his performance at all going forward. But I think he's almost the best value mid available right now. Like you could make an argument for Noah Anderson. I think Heaney is pretty well priced, but I think he's probably the guy you're looking to if you don't have Baz at the moment with a nice run coming up. And then Sully Roby, I think it feels too late. But it's actually not, because you'd think he's probably going to play almost every week for you during the buys. He's got forward mid status, so you can flick in between the two, and he's scoring pretty much like Cozzy Pickett is, if not better. But without the price tag. So sort of feels like you can buy into Roby, you can buy into Merritt. And then, from a Tigers perspective, interested to see that Sam Cummings been named. So obviously he's okay after that cork. But look, they don't have a lot of options from a team perspective. Like in an ideal world, Jasper Algar would be playing in the VFL. They're playing Tom Sims on managed minutes in the twos. Liam Fawcett's not very good, so that's why he's been omitted. They rested Lafau last week, knowing that they had the 5-day break. So next week they get Morris Rioli, Dion Prestia, and Sam Banks back and available. And then there's a truckload of players who'll come back after the bye, including Nankervis, etc. But yeah, it's still slim pickings.
2 games Friday night. So tonight we've got Walyalup and Euroke over in Perth. So 8:30 start over here in the east. So Corey Wagner comes in, but it's Caleb Sarong who's out with that calf for 2 to 3 weeks. Rhino's saying so. It is a trade, I think, with what you need to do with that one anyway. Mason Wood is in with Jack Higgins out with the surgery he had on his grazed knee.
Yeah. So Sam Flanders light session this week, but it is a 5-day break for the Saints, so I don't think we have to read.
He was on the plane, so that's enough.
Yes, he's over there. He's named. He's ready to go. Yeah, like Luke Jackson, I guess from a Freo perspective, is probably one of their only really relevant players. I know that he's got a tough run the next couple of weeks. I wonder if they'll take the opportunity to start managing him a little bit more.
Okay.
So he played less game time last week. He's got a pretty big job this week, doesn't he, against Ron Marshall and Tom DeConing. Just a word of warning, because Justin Longmuir did flag this a while ago. He said, we need Luke Jackson fit and firing at the right time of the year. And if he plays a massive ruck load, that's what starts to wear him down. So utilising Mason Cox a little bit more. Darcy's probably 1 to 2 away with the calf. I think it's a little buyer beware at the moment. I think clearly, if you're buying into a ruckman, if you don't have Grundy, I think Darcy Cameron's the move. I wouldn't be going to Luke Jackson.
Right, interesting. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like there's just the dollars between that as well. That's the fantasy gameplay is maybe the thing there of what you're looking at.
It makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. Let's
look at a popular rookie, and that's Charlie Banfield. We're not reading into exactly where he's on the bench because it's in numerical order. But they do have their emergency there, Toby Travalia, Hasty, and also Boxall. So some players that are part of their future and that. Where do you see the job security at the moment for Banfield?
Yeah, I think it's reasonable. I think it's been noted even by, maybe Roy was talking about it, just the way that a couple of players have spoken about him in media opportunities that they've had. And all the feedback that I got early in the season was that he had made a really good impression. Like the fact that West Coast didn't think anyone was going to draft him, but they were just going to take him as a rookie was a fascinating situation. And that to me almost puts a little bit of a chip on Charlie's shoulder. He's also like, and you've seen him play. Like he looks like he's big and developed for a first year player. But yeah, Boxall was playing this role. I don't know if you recall earlier in the season, they were giving Hugh a game, but playing more as sort of a defensive forward, occasional pinch hit. I think that's sort of Banfield's remit here. So at the moment, he's got the spot, and I love him as a downgrade option in your forward line. And I think if you're not doing it this week, then it's something we can look at next week. Because Ison just sort of feels like the guy you're going this week. But I think it's not too bad.
Which the trades too next week. You're fixing up a lot of stuff, I think, in that week of your 3 trades before the buys, because you don't love buying into players that have a buy coming up, but if they're rookies, it's all good. Right, let's move into Saturday. And the first game is North Melbourne and Gold Coast. Riley Hardman is back in for the Roos with Blamires out omitted, so time to go for him if he's in your plans, as he probably should be anyway. Ben Long is back in with Sam Closey. Now, Lockie Weller is out with a hammy and Will Graham with concussion. So this one here, I guess what we're seeing here is exit option in the ruck, or what are we doing? They're going with the Twin Towers there in Ned Moyle held his spot, and Witsy, who was a late in last week. So we're seeing that the Suns are shifting to that mode, which it's been actually an interesting thing. It might be a mid-season check-in with stuff to have a look at, what teams have actually done with their rucks, because we didn't really know what was going to happen. We all speculated stuff, but everyone sort of shuffled in a bit of a way.
Yeah, and Gold Coast is a more interesting situation because there's a few moving parts. Like Ethan Reid got injured, Jamara got injured, and it sort of felt like maybe just for a week or two, Moyle had sort of taken the number one ruck role, and then I guess they just thought, well, let's get Wits in because we need that extra height and we can have a bit of a look at what 2 rucks look like. Moyle played a bit more forward last week, kicked a couple of goals. He hasn't traditionally shown a lot of forward craft, Moyle.
Yep.
And certainly Witts has never shown any forward craft. He's always been like the big boy solo ruck who just eats up the minutes. So it just feels like it's a bit of a trial from Dimmer.
Yep.
But it means that it's going to be a tough week for Tristan.
Yeah.
I think like Witts has always been a relatively restrictive ruckman. And then you've got to go up against a pretty fresh Moyle when Witts is on the bench. So, yeah, like we said before, Sherry would be great to have. I just can't say to someone, spend the extra 300K when Darcy Cameron as a solo ruck is going to be having very similar output.
And at the moment too, both these teams have the bye next week, so it's a really hard sell to be buying in, but they're going to have our targets afterwards. I think everyone's got Sheezer, but he'd obviously be one of those. You throw in Noah Anderson, who has started to hit a little bit of form, so he might be one to be looking at coming off there. And then we're going to get some DPPs after this round as well, and Colby McKercher looks pretty well set to get the forward status, which might be your decision to hold. And it also probably makes him a target for those of us that don't have him, because if he can go back, I remember this time last year he went back and ended up playing. Well, he was playing these sorts of roles for the first half of the season. Then they needed him to get back behind the ball and get his hands on it. So I believe that there will be a shift at some point where he's in a more fantasy-friendly role, and that's probably more about him with what he needs to do. However, you understand what his future is. That's probably the real key to it, that the Roos are looking forward. So we'll see. We'll see if Calvin can get any intel this week when he's after this weekend, where he can catch up with his little boy.
I've given up trying to make too many reads on what Colby's going to do. But if he goes to halfback flank, then sure, we'll all go there because he'll have that forward status. But for now, just wait and see.
4:15 is Geelong and Sydney. Huge game there, which is probably clashing a little bit with another one. But this is going to be great, I reckon. And we're going to be seeing no changes there for the Cats. The Suns have omitted Cunningham and Cootie, and Cleary comes in with Hanley as well. So we're going to see some pretty magic stuff. You're bringing in Brodie Grundy. This should be massive in the sense that he's up against Mitch Edwards and could be a captain option.
Yeah, Bailey Williams got 120 or 130 against Mitch Edwards, so that just gives you an idea of the scoring potential that Grundy has.
So 230.
And look, it's there's no Laddams, which is a great sign for us. I think there's still no McLean, so that's good as well. That suggests that Grundy is just going to do it all himself. There's a lot on the line in this game. Swans going to GMHBA Stadium. They've won 4 of their last 6 games at Kardinia Park, so they're absolutely a shout in this one. So Grundy feels like you're probably going Roberts into Grundy, very safe captaincy. And from a Geelong perspective, I know I've spoken a bit about this week. There's a little flag on Baz. I refuse to believe that he's strapping his shoulders so he'll look like Chris Gunn. I think that's actually quite funny by Chris Gunn, to be honest.
Quality.
But this is Bailey Smith we're talking about. I know he's had the laid outs and whatever, but that was a muscular, calf concern, if we believe Geelong and Mitch Cleary's reporting. This guy is a freaking sicko. He cares about playing in the biggest games, about dominating, about racking up touches. He is the main character.
Built different.
He is built different. So don't stress, but just be aware that there probably is a slight issue with his shoulder, but I don't think it's going to stop him.
Might be a little flag, maybe not captaincy, but it wouldn't stop me from trading in, for example, if he was in the plans to be collecting that set. Does he cop the attention, though? Because that's always the question whenever we're up against Sydney. What do we see happening there with James Jordan? Because there are some different options. There's probably some different narratives that we could all go down.
A few people have thrown out the idea that James Jordan could go to Tom Stewart. They could also use, say, Caden Cleary in that defensive role in the forward line on Stewart. So there's a few options. The thing is that there hasn't really been a tagger that's shown they can go with Baz all day. No. So there's been times where guys have tried for a half and maybe they slow him down slightly, but ultimately you're just not going to be able to go with him all day long. So, they might try something. Maybe they'll back in their midfield to start with and see what happens. But if Max Holmes is playing half back and they want to start James Jordan off a half forward flank, then that makes perfect sense. So, Something will happen with Baz, especially if he dominates the first half, but it's not going to affect him too much.
Then on the other side, O'Sheen's the big one. So who do you see him going to? Is it, straight up Heaney in the guts, or where are they looking there, do you reckon?
I just think Heaney's the guy that can blow you off the park. He could kick 5, he could have 30, he could do both, he could take mark of the year. Like he can beat you in so many different ways. It just feels like that makes sense. Chad Warner is also a game breaker. That to me seems more like a Mark O'Connor matchup, to be honest, especially because O'Connor's probably more adept as playing as sort of a medium-sized defender if Chad rolls forward. So that would be the way that I would see it starting off with at least.
All right, then at almost the same time, 20 minutes later, the 4:35 start is Collingwood and Wallet Marrawar. I assume you'll be heading along to see your Eagles try to ruin Pendle's party?
Yeah, it's going to be Max's first AFL game as well. So we've packed the headphones, the earmuffs, just to make sure he doesn't get his head blown off.
Oh, especially at the 10-minute mark when everyone will be cheering hard.
Well, my view on this is that West Coast are going to do them by 10 goals. So the crowd will actually be quite...
cheering the 10 goals, right?
Subdued, yeah. It'll just be me and Max just jumping around when Harley kicks his third.
Celebrating his 50th game.
That's right. No, and this is a huge occasion. Tip of the lid to Pendles, who's been a fantastically consistent fantasy player.
Yeah,
over the years.
100%.
If you've nabbed him in draft for like the last 5 years, you probably got him at like pick 150 and he's knocked out like an 85 or a 90 for you just about week on week. But from a fantasy perspective, I guess we're looking at what the Eagles are going to do, with their stoppers. Surely Hoff's going to have another job. Maybe it's on Nick.
Yep. And
maybe Murdoch goes to Josh. Like there's a few options there for Andrew McQualter.
So we've got Jack Hutchison out injured for the Eagles, but Bo Allen comes in. Now, the Pies have 4 changes, so they've omitted Angry Anderson, Will Parker, Jack Buller, and then Oscar Steen with an ACL, which is really sad for him because he's been having a great year. And the dual ruck setup, not that it was last week because Cameron was out, but that has been working for the Pies a bit. Cameron is back in and is that really hot trade target if you're looking for the ruck at that sort of price at $800K, like as we sort of been talking about, $48K to go from McAndrew to Cameron is a bit of a no-brainer. Pendle's back in after being rested, ready for this one. Lipinski and also Darcy Moore. So some great names coming back into the squad there.
Just one flag. Darcy Cameron's partner is pregnant.
Oh, yes. We mentioned this last week.
Yeah. So I spoke to Nick Butler.
Are you on top of it?
I'll drop Butsy's name here because Darcy Cameron's been doing some stuff on Nick's podcast. Yep. I spoke to Nick last night. He said that they're still awaiting the birth of their child. So you just have to be, if you're trading into him, you just have to be across it.
Know that he's there.
And make sure that he's named in the final squads an hour before the game. I think that the news will filter out if he's going to be laid out during Saturday. But so just keep across it because that's a real disaster if you don't
get ready for your pivot.
Yeah, if you don't have a plan, like if he gets the call 15 minutes before, or like the footy manager like Charlie Gardner gets the call 15 minutes before the game, Cameron's out. Like he'll be gone.
What is the pivot? And so, yeah, that's. Have you thought about this? Because you need to. This is live for you with the bad reception there at the MCG as well.
Well, yeah, I'll do my best I'll do the reporting. If I see Darcy Cameron warm me off and then run off the ground like real fast, yeah, sure, I can do my best.
No, but I'm meaning for your team. Oh no, you're going straight to Grundy, so that's all right. Yeah.
But yeah, so just one to keep an eye on. I think they've got Charlie West that can do some ruck work and whatever, so they'll be okay. But just one to keep an eye on because if you've committed to the McAndrew trade already. Yeah, you're going to have to move some money around in order to get him in. Maybe just go straight to Bailey Williams because he'll have a great game.
If Darcy Cameron's out, yep.
That's right. A 1 week Timu Baz move.
Oh, play it like Roy does. Anyway, what about Milan Murdoch? Obviously, last week, that was a massive game for him to be playing on Whitfield, doing the job that he did. Sacrificed his game because without that sort of holding the ball and goal at the end of the game, would have been a pretty awful score as well. So, it sounds a bit like a bit of a horses for courses and not necessarily going to make that his role each week or anything like that. Do you see that happening now? Is it going to be a little bit of an attention for a Houston or a Josh Dacos type thing? Because they'd be the similar players, but Whitfield's probably a different player in that sense as well.
Yeah, so I mean, they made the decision because Whitfield was so influential to how GWS play. You know, whether they view Houston and Josh through that same lens remains to be seen. But look, now that we know that he's an option for that role, it does mean that he's expendable in our teams, which is a shame because we thought with forward status coming, safe 80 in our forward line during the buys was going to be a really good option for us. From my perspective now, I don't think that you can lean on him expecting a consistent score every week, which says to me he's going to be a trade once he can find the right move for him. But yeah, he got. Well, I sort of think it's the grand slam, isn't it? If the holding the ball free kick, kicking a goal, like that's about your best fantasy play you can do. So thank God for that.
It is. The plus 14 is a win. All right, let's move into Saturday night. Yardapudi, that's the Power up against Carlton, 7:35 Eastern time. Lai is in with Ware and Toddy Marshall is back for any silly people that still have him. Vizentini has been omitted. Lorenz has been omitted. And Lockie Jones out with that concussion. For the Blues, they've got Wade Dirksen back in there. Been quite a while for him to be out of the side. Because he played... When did he play? Did he play like about round... Oh, geez, I probably should have researched this. I feel like he played a game, didn't he, early on in the season?
Yeah, like round 2 or 3 or something.
And wasn't really there for any longer. So he's one to watch too, just for price-wise and role this week. Taylor Byrne and also Flint Young are in. So out, Wiedering and Hollands are both injured while they've managed Zach Williams. So this one here, let's talk Sam Walsh. So he's on the chopping block for Calvinator with a team like yours, and I'm going to say like mine as well. Look, I'm just rolling through with these guys. You just have to stick with them.
Oh, I'd love to trade Sam Walsh, but yeah, it's a long way down the list. Yeah, he did a job. Did he do a job last week?
Well, I almost felt like
scoring was
he
down.
Copped it as well from Riley Sanders last week a little bit.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I beg your pardon. Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, I think you just got to roll. Yeah, we're rolling with it.
We'll see what it looks like. It could be a buy round trade.
Your team is amazing. Yeah, unless your team's amazing, I think we're rolling with it. Any thoughts on a Butters C or a VC if you haven't got...
Could be, because I don't think he's going to be copping any attention, like even, to the point of anyone that's done stuff. And then who would go with him that has done stuff? A Hewitt's not going to be able to do that, or a Chera or whatever. They'll put time into him at stoppage. But I think Butters, this could be set up for a big Butters game. So I think I'd be quite happy to be whacking... I think it'd be a pretty safe C if you were going your VC on someone else. Like, Archie Roberts, I think, is a nice, obvious one for coaches that have him tonight. So going with that one into, the safety if you are looking for that. But there are options all the way around, really, aren't there?
Yeah, for sure. So Dirksen played forward in the VFL last week and played really well, but it appears that he's coming in to replace Wiedering, who's got a calf concern. So Wiedering's only expected to miss 1 week. So just launching on Dirksen, it would be a little bit risky.
And we are grabbing Jack Ison. He's sort of the most traded in player and the best of the rookies that we're seeing. Just for job security is another thing. And he had a bit of a crack, which was great. He looked awesome last week, so it was a nice move there. The other one's talking Jagger, probably keeps getting that extra mid-clock, which is a nice thing, but he's 39% forward, so hopefully it just maintains that. I need to do the maths. You'd have to do you have to be 100% mid, wouldn't it, to not get that? So he'll be a nice one if you are thinking about that moving forward with what your F6 might look like. So that's something in this world. But yeah, otherwise I reckon we can move into Sunday where we have 2 games. First one, 12:30, GWS and Brisbane. Hannaford, Stone, Brown, Buckley into the squad with Angwin out injured. Now the Lions have omitted Cody Curtin and Ryan Lester's out injured, but they bring into the squad Gallup, Beacon, Will McLaughlin, Shadowbrain, and ZZ Top is into the squad there. So we'll see these teams obviously trimmed down at 5 p.m. on this afternoon. So go and check that out to see that. Right. No Dane Zorko. So that looked like it was might have only been 1 week, but he's not there.
Yeah, still sore. So I'm told he'll play next week, but they're just giving him the extra week off. It's been a bit of it hasn't been a Zorko season, unfortunately. When he's played and been fit, he's scored really well. But yeah, calf and now a bit sore. So it's been unfortunate.
Do you know much about the soreness? Is it calf related or is it just a general or don't know?
No, I don't know. They haven't gone into specifics, unfortunately. He's still well priced in Supercoach and in fantasy, and we know when he's up and running, he's a dominant player. But unfortunately, you can't trust his body right now, so it's just a stay away. Ryan Lester hurt his calf.
Yep.
So that you would think a couple of medium-sized defenders probably have to come in. So I don't think ZZ is going to be playing.
No.
Fortunately,
be safe there if you need to use that as a loop, I would say, on there because, I think Lions have been tough to use for that over the last couple of weeks because they're playing so early in the round. So we get a Sunday game from them, which he can be useful there. Lockie Ash still named on the ball, and that sort of role probably does continue and still rolls through. Callaghan hasn't been the pick that a lot of coaches might have wanted, but we know that these Giants have that nice buy, and that's that one in round 13. So we've bought in, and we've done that like I did with Whitfield last week. I'm hoping I get a bit of a return this week, but, it is the Lions who have proven to be pretty tough.
Yeah, well, Callahan's the line breaker, not dissimilar to the way that Baz plays, and Bailey was able to rack up a 150. So if you scale that back for Finn, maybe that's at least a ton. But yeah, I think the Lions back their midfield, so it might mean that Finn is able to get a bit more ball. Lockie Ash, hard to trust him as much with the midfield clock, but if anything, his price is probably just getting down a little bit for us to launch for those who don't have him later in the year. I think if you're thinking I want to bring in a top 6 player this week, I still think Whitfield is trustworthy. It was just 1 week.
Yeah,
He's still got a 60, even though he got one of the hardest tags you will ever see. And he gave away like 3 free kicks at least. He wasn't feeling very happy. So I'm sure he'll cash in this week with a bit more free reign.
Bounce back. All right, and the final game, 3:15. It's nice when we have these earlier games to finish the round, especially on a round where we get the DPPs coming through. I can get that done at a reasonable hour afterwards when I have to write up the piece for that one. That's my selfish little love of this. But anyway, 3:15. Adam Treloar's into the squad with Croft, Lockie Jacks, O'Donnell and Cleary. We've got injuries, shoulder there for Buslinger and Bailey Williams. He saw himself out of that game. So the Dogs keep copping these injuries as well. Into the NARM squad. So that is Melbourne with Caleb Windsor, Jack Henderson and Andy Moniz at Wakefield come into the squad. So we'll see what that gets trimmed to. But you'd think that Windsor is back in after that little bit of a toe, if he's fit, obviously. So that'll be the thing. Yeah,
they actually have their main session today,
right?
Technically. So there is a fitness test for him today. We actually saw some vision of him. He stopped his training sort of rehab session earlier in the week to sort of re-strap the toe and get a bit more medical attention. So I think it's still giving him a little bit of bother.
That'll be a really annoying injury too, won't it?
I bet it would be really bloody frustrating for him. But I can't imagine he is a highly owned player amongst coaches who are still... No,
I did trade last week, but I'm just going. I was still there last week, and
that's what I mean. I feel like
you would have moved.
That was you traded last week, but yes, we'll wait and see what happens with the squads at 5:00 because it can, we can be made to look a little bit silly. The Dogs definitely bringing back O'Donnell and Croft. They've been named on the field.
Yep.
From a fantasy perspective, I think Treloar is a reasonable chance to be on that extended bench to make the cut.
It. Yep.
Yeah, he played well in the VFL last week. So I think he probably does get the nod so long as his body gets through the week and he's okay. And they could use a boost. I think Treloar's, but this is the right time for him to come in.
Yep. We've seen, interesting stuff in the Dogs. Bont's still an option if you're going there. It's just going to be...
Would you?
Did you see that 7 report basically saying that you could even shut him down for the season? I think that was not a quote or anything in that when I read that. I said that. It actually, when it was a screenshot I first saw of that, I thought someone's AI'd this bad boy or whatever. Then read it, and it was just almost like an opinion piece. I don't think it was very much anything.
Was it by? Do you know who it was by?
Staff writers, of course.
Oh, okay. That's great. Opinion piece by staff writers.
I don't think I could. This is the Merritt one. I'd be just going Merritt over Bont. That's sort of where, if you had that choice, basically at the moment.
If you watched him last week, it felt like his soreness affected his performance, and that's the first time I think that we could say that has legitimately happened. But yeah, they've got the last bye. It's still a long way home for Bont to get that week off. Yep. So it could happen. It could happen that he misses.
Jack Steele is someone that people are ready to chop as well from what he's doing. Again, my team, I'm just going to stick with him at the moment and hope that he can give us something, but he could be one of those buy-around trades that you do look at that can give you a bit of a shuffle. But yeah, he's plummeting a bit in cash because he hasn't done anything for quite a while now.
Yeah, well, I wish you all the best. I was like I said pre-season, I didn't want any part of him, and then he came out the start of the year and looked absolutely sensational. So I think he's at it. This has been an amazing move for his career, and he looks rejuvenated.
Yeah.
But he's just not the Jack Steele of old. So we can't expect the 110s week in, week out that we used to get. Because
he's also the other one that we wouldn't mind a little bit of a bounce back from at the minute, because I reckon those people buying in the last month will be, that missed out on the big 130s and things like that. Not good.
Shocking.
Yeah, so hopefully that. And the other one too is probably worth a note is Max Gawn against Rory Lobb, who has been named in the ruck. So, the Dogs are still without Tim English is one thing there. Does Heath not make the cut here? I think they've been happy with it, but geez, that could be an interesting one if they go, do we necessarily need to take both big boys in against the Dogs with the way that they're lining up?
Yeah, this could be a week theoretically where they don't necessarily need it. I just think they've been so happy with the fact that it's given Max a little bit of a chop out, which he hasn't had the last probably couple of years. I'll throw this at you late. I know we're just about to wrap up here. It's been popping into my head. Is there a world where you go Gawn to Darcy Cameron? Not this week.
No, yeah, right.
This is a buy round move to make a little bit of cash.
Yep.
The scoring output's not going to be too dissimilar.
No, well, that's right. And this is the thing.
Just a thought.
I put things in my head of going, like, what was your pre-season prediction of things? And we thought that Darcy Cameron was a top 4 or 5, judging by my drafting as well, Ruck. But yeah, like, how many points were we thinking at that point? I would have had Max ahead, but half a dozen points almost. And if you do the maths on that now, a good 200 plus K is the difference. So that could be that almost the Rochelle Roby type shuffle of what you're doing there, where you're going, that might just be the cash that allows you to do that. So we are going to be doing shuffles in this buy period. And the stock market game that it is, I don't mind it. Again, like you said, not this week, but if that works all right and we see that Cameron is good and also has his baby in this time, that's going to be the other thing. So, I like the call. It's good goat thinking.
Yeah, just putting it out there. As just a disclaimer to that, please do not trust my fantasy nous at all. But just a thought. That's right. When you're in my position, when your team value has been decimated by Noah Anderson and Jai Caldwell, these are the areas that we need to operate in.
We all have to think in different ways. We're thinking a fair bit about this week because it is the last week before the buys. The last week before, we get our DPPs coming through this week, which is going to change some things in our team. In a couple of players, at least, I would say, that is going to change the flexibility. And you're doing the nice move of getting Brodie Grundy in to help collect your set of cows, big 4 that he's liking to call them at the moment. So that's a nice move. What's the other move?
Correcting my error from Gather Round when I chose Max over Brodie, which we all did.
Idiots.
And then, it's Blamires to Jack Ison.
Perfect. This is textbook fantasy football coaching. Good work, mate. I'm going actually. Jack Sinclair's my guy from 2 rookies, and it is going to be Murdoch out for me. So that's my plan. It was a bit of punishment for what he did to my man Whitfield last week. So anyway, it's time for him to go. Anyway, I'm going to treat it like that. I wish it was another player I could have done it with, but anyway, it is what it is. Thanks, mate. Have a great round 11, and hope your Eagles spoil Pendle's party, and Max loves it, and you're not home by quarter time.
No, I've got full faith. West Coast will put up a good fight. Max is going to have a great time. Hopefully, neither of us are crying at any stage during the game.
Awesome. Thanks, mate.
See you, mate.